We have long been a leader in the movement to repatriate sacred and ceremonial items back to their home communities. Early talks leading up to the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, known as NAGPRA, were held here at the Herd Museum. The museum has also had an active role in supporting the return of sacred, communally owned objects to a number of American Indian tribes. The Herd is honored to host today's gathering of several distinguished speakers working to intervene in the sale of the Hopi Casino prints, scheduled for June 1st, 2015 in Paris. To begin, I'd like to introduce the Honorable Paul Gosar, representative of Arizona's 4th Congressional District, who will discuss federal and international law enforcement, federal policies related to the protection of Native cultural heritage and sacred objects. Please join me in welcoming Representative Paul Gosar.
Well, thank you, everybody. As John said, I'm Congressman Paul Gosar from the 4th District. I had the pleasure in my first term to represent the Hopis, so this is very personal to me. I want to thank all of you for attending today's event. I want to especially thank Chairman Hanani, whose tireless efforts ensured that the vitally important part of Hopi culture is returned home where it belongs. Late last year, I was honored with Chairman Hanani, who personally detailed how the Katsina Friends were much more than just artifacts. They are a living part of the Hopi culture that embodies the spirit of their ancestors and the world itself. The chairman made it very clear that the fate of the Katsina Friends and the Hopi people are intertwined. For such a compelling case of sacred property, I was more than willing to add my name to the growing list of supporters, calling on the State Department, the Department of Justice, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to take action before the June 1st auction. And we learned just a little while ago that there's also another auction on June 10th. One of the strongest links that binds the diverse cultures living in the United States and here in Arizona together is a shared belief that everyone is free to practice their religion without discrimination or persecution. It is that fundamental idea that brings us all here today in solidarity with the Hopi people. Furthermore, it is appalling that a French auction house believes it's acceptable to profit off the sale of the sacred Katsina Friends. And I am proud to stand with everyone here today to ensure that this offense is put to an end and never occurs again. I will work with my friends in Congress, including the entire Arizona delegation that signed a letter to the State Department, the Department of Justice, and the F.B.I. to protect the rights of the Hopi people and to see that it is an essential part of their culture and that it is returned to the right people, the Hopi people. That letter has the full support of everyone in the delegation, and it was signed in almost one day. So that will tell you that the spirit in which the delegation is fully behind the Hopi people. And with that, I will turn it over to John again. Look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce the Honorable Herman Hanani, Chairman of the Hopi Tribe, to deliver remarks on behalf of his tribal community and the cultural significance of the items being held by the auction house. Please join me in welcoming Chairman Herman Hanani.
Thank you, Mr. Bulla, for the introduction and welcome. But first, Congressman Gosar, thank you very much for your support, for your words of encouragement, and of course, the support for the Hopi Tribe. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Chairman Hanani of the Hopi Tribe, and we're faced with a very, very hard situation. And this has been going on for the last several years with the sale of our religious artifacts. And I think if you know the Hopi people, based on our customs, our traditions, our religion, our culture overall, mandates myself as an elected leader and mandated by the Hopi Tribal Council through resolution that the chairman do whatever means necessary, be legal and otherwise, to call upon the pertinent, relevant entities throughout the state, throughout the federal lands, throughout the country, and the federal government including, to do what we can to be able to stop these auctions that have been going on and of course the sale of our artifacts. The Hopi people have experienced this setback because we have not been able to have a handle in stopping this, and especially when the venue is overseas and in France. This is a big affront to the Hopi people. It's sad. And not only that, but when you look at the purpose behind these actions taking place, the individuals involved in the illicit market and the black trade of these artifacts causes a great deal of depression, especially amongst our religious leaders. They are the ones who really are suffering because of their continued religious obligations. But when you look at the Hopi tribe as a whole, everyone is affected because many of them, if not all of us, are initiated into the Hopi ceremonial cycle. And so therefore Hopi people have been hurt. They look at this as a sacrilegious act on the part of those who are taking part in the auctioning and sale of these items. So it is no secret that we hold a very strong posture that we must do everything that we can to stop these auctions. We need to put the word out and inform everybody that we're calling on the federal government and everyone else out there to come to our support. And it is very gratifying today to learn of the 11 signatures of the Arizona congressional letters in a formal letter to the State Department and other folks. So that is a huge step for us to realize, and I appreciate that very much. I did inform Tribal Council of this matter recently, and so Tribal Council is very much aware and very much supportive of our efforts and so forth. So I really do appreciate you all being here, and I just hope that we can be able to send this word out to the world today and maybe subsequent times that we are deeply postured. We are going to do everything that we can to counter these auctions and to stop the sale of our religious artifacts. We want them home. Our practitioners want them home. I want them home. So on behalf of the Hopi people, that is my statement today. And I would like to give some time to Mr. Lee Gowanusilma, who is the director of the Cultural Preservation Office and who has been deeply involved for the many, many years since we've been having and facing this issue. So I'd like to call on Mr. Lee Gowanusilma, who can maybe give you a broader and deeper insight into the cultural aspects. But before I do, I want to read a statement from one of our traditional Katsin Momis and a member of the Katsina clan. He writes, as a ceremonial leader vested with the responsibility of protecting and ensuring the continuance of life, it is with deep concern that we face a serious issue that threatens life. It is not only in the interest of the Hopi people, but all indigenous cultures throughout the world, that we be given a fair opportunity to stake our case. Where the sale and exploitation of significant cultural and religious antiquities are at stake. We hope our pleas are given proper respect and the opportunity to show provenance. And to echo those words, one of the things that I've been saying to myself is that why is it that people out there seem to not have a heart, seem to not have a conscience, and continue to do what they're doing, but hurting us as a Hopi people, as practitioners of our culture, as practitioners of our religion. We need to have that respect like everyone else throughout the country, to every faith-based organization throughout the country and all the world. We are no different. We like to think of ourselves as being no different. So I call upon the world, I call upon everybody to take a look at Hopi, hear our voice, and say enough is enough. Let Hopi people have their religious artifacts. Let life go on. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Lee Gowanusilma. I'm currently the director for the Hopi Tribe's Cultural Preservation Office, and you probably noticed that I'm the only street guy up on the table here. Try looking for a blazer or suit coat this morning. The only one I found was my high school one that didn't fit. And even in high school, I didn't know how to tie a tie, so here I am, just being a common Hopi up here. Again, my thanks to everybody here for coming to listen to the Hopi people. You know, the looting and the marketing and the sale of Native American cultural material isn't just recent. In my job, of course, I'm deeply involved with the cultural aspects as well as administrative aspects of carrying out the office's duties on behalf of the Hopi people and the tribal government. As I look at the Paris auctions today, you know, the history just comes to me as real. For over 100 years since the turn of the century, the pillaging of cultural material from tribe has been an institution in itself in American history. Today, the Hopi Tribe deals with over 300 plus museums nationwide that hold tens of thousands of Hopi material, including hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of Hopi cultural material, including such as we are now facing today, Kachina friends. So it's nothing new as far as I'm concerned, but it's only because of the recent Paris auctions that it has become now to the forefront, hopefully of public attention. You know, when the first auction came to my notice in 2013, you know, the whole tribe was caught off guard. I was caught off guard. As the chairman said, we were now dealing with a totally different venue, and later I learned a different set of laws, and that was French law. So the tribe was put in a position, a very precarious position as to what to do regarding the first auction in Paris in 2013. So the tribe has proceeded with, of course, filing lawsuits in French court. We lost on every filing in French court under some interesting arguments, legal arguments that I have yet to fully comprehend as a non-lawyer. You know, the French court said, first of all, that the people who were going to sell it through these items through the auction, did they have a certificate of rightful possession, which probably is a similar term and requirement here in the United States. But the view of the Hopi court was just from that particular family to the one that they acquired it from another French family. That was how narrow the French court looked at it. No matter what the Hopi tribe was asserting, which was proprietary interest into these items. So the court said, yes, the current owners have a possession of a certificate of rightful possession, and they allowed the auction to go. Also, another thing that I learned, which was, again, not just interesting, but really, really different than what I'm used to, is that if any sacred object that is declared to be of original religious value, which later becomes commodified or commercialized, French law says it loses its sacredness. It still didn't matter if the tribe was still saying in our arguments that these were still at that level of sacredness to the Hopi people. That's what the Hopi tribe faced in the foreign venue in French court. So for me personally, you know, I have the responsibility of being that liaison between the Hopi villages, and from the Hopi villages, of course, our religious leaders back to our tribal government. That's my role. So I take the continuance of the Paris auctions since 2013 French people suffered immensely during World War II. Much of their art and religious artifacts were looted during World War II. And they're still fighting to have some of this material turned back to France. So I guess the open question to the French people and to the French government, it just totally baffles me as to why they can't understand the Hopi situation. We're using the same argument that the French people, the French government used to get their material returned. So that's my challenge to the French government. I hope this time around you will intervene, based on international law, and really understanding that our arguments as Hopi people is simply the same as the French people. The same arguments that they are using today to get their material returned. So yes, it's pretty frustrating, and the frustration, of course, is why is it still happening? The 2013 went global. It's just totally amazing how much information went out internationally. I have hundreds and hundreds of emails since then on these auctions worldwide, pretty much almost 100% supporting the Hopi people. So the information is out there. I think the issue is well known. But again, the final question, why is it still happening? So I hope through, again, the media and other public venues, we can continue to provide an outreach and education to the public at large. So I hope that this time around there will be some sensitivity and voluntarily return of our sacred Kachina friends, which are central to the Hopi religion. Goko.
Thank you, Lee, Chen, Anani. I'd like to now introduce Pierre Surik of the Surik Law Firm, who has led the intervention to stop the June 1st auction of Casino Friends and to obtain the swift and prompt restitution to the Hopi people. Please join me in welcoming Pierre Surik.
This is the first time that a lawyer gets the applause too, so this is the first. So it's a very tough act to follow because basically Lee stole my whole legal argument. So that, in fact, he summarized it very well. You'll just hear the same thing from the legal voice here. So thank you very much to everybody representing Gosar, Mr. Chairman, Robert, John, for organizing the event. In this ever-growing global community governed by the rule of law and mutual respect, even for a French-educated American lawyer that I am, it is appalling that the home of liberty and human rights is becoming such a haven from stolen property, which is destroying the cultural patrimony of the Hopi Tribe, as you heard. I'll give you some more legal arguments about that. 2 weeks ago, in fact, the Hopi Cultural Preservation Office had discovered that several religious protected Hopi objects were offered at auction in Tarrytown, New York. Within 2 days, we approached the auction house in Tarrytown and we obtained the withdrawal of the items. Within 2 weeks, we obtained the restitution following negotiation with the auctioneer of 3 items that are in fact ready to be put in the box. So what a contrast now with the situation in France, where not twice, not 3 times, but now 5 times, the French auction houses were cleared to move forward with auctioning the exact same sacred objects at Katsina, France. The Hopi tribe in France was not just denied the equitable review of the claims by the auction house itself, by the French courts, but also, and in fact this is exactly what Lee pointed out very well, by the French government itself. As a summary, there's been 3 cases going to the civil court system in France. 3 times the Hopi tribe was denied review by the civil court system. Twice in June 2014 and in December 2014, the Hopi tribe partnered with an entity called the Holocaust Art Restitution Project, which is a not-for-profit group based in DC, which had actually experience with the Nazi-looted art claims that you have probably read and seen a lot about on television, in fact, and in fact also in Hollywood. So the tribe and a park, that's their name, joined forces against this auction house called Eve, E-V-E, which is the one that's scheduled to do the June 1st auction sale. And we went this time not to civil court, but to a special government agency, which is in fact entrusted to supervise the auction houses in France. It's called the Council of Auction Sales. I think in your material it's abbreviated CVV. When you see CVV in your material, that's the government agency. So it's the voice of the government. Okay? And so it has the power to suspend these sales or to force the withdrawal of certain items from a scheduled auction sale. They can do this if these objects, or if there is a sufficient doubt that exists on the provenance of these objects. That's the standard. Twice now, this agency has refused to withdraw the Katsina francs, not because they doubted the origin of the objects, not because they're doubting the strength of US laws or the existence of the United States. No, twice they held the grotesque position that neither the Hopi Nation nor individual tribe members have the capacity to sue in any court. So in US terms, think of the child that cannot go to court and has to be represented by their parents, right, when they go to American courts. Same thing. The idea here is that the tribe, the Hopi Nation, in fact any tribe, has no capacity to show up at the door. That's the end. This is what the French government has held. It didn't take a rocket scientist for some people who may have actually held these objects for a long time to find out that now France is becoming this safe haven. They know they cannot dispose of these objects in the US. They know they cannot transfer them in the United States. So they now go to France to transfer them, which is why you now see in these new auctions new objects that we've never seen before in the prior sales that are now showing up. This incomprehensible jurisprudence does not respect the long-standing legal tradition that federally recognized Indian tribes have the power to sue in a number of matters, and also that the Hopi Nation has an ancient culture, more than 14,000 members, that has remained steadfast to its culture, its language, its heritage, and its spirituality. No individual, no business, no nation should ever profit from one culture's loss or of the stolen cultural heritage or of its religious objects. In fact, human decency would dictate that discovery of any stolen or looted cultural heritage or sacred object would lead to its immediate return to the appropriate owner. And as Lee explained it probably better than I am now, France is in fact jeopardizing this notion of this legal recognition of cultural claims. There's a lack of equity now between the French legal system that opposes American parties such as Indian nations, while at the same time, the French museum institutions are the first ones to seek, in fact, to run and successfully obtain the leverage of American courts when they claim cultural property stolen in France during World War II, before World War II, after World War II, and subsequently transferred to the United States. Therefore, the legal and the honorable thing to do is for the French government to take any action to suspend the sale have the Katsina Friends and immediately return them to the Hopi Tribe. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. Now I'd like to introduce Hopi Police Chief Ron Hanieptua, who will address how Hopi Tribal law enforcement, along with U.S. and international law enforcement, are working to resolve the issues. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ron Hanieptua.
Good afternoon. My name is Ronald Hanieptua. I'm the Chief Ranger for the Hopi Tribe. Thank you, Congressman, representatives, for being here in support of the Hopi Tribe and returning their Katsina friends. The Hopi Tribe and the people, we've been actively enforcing the illegal sales and thefts of our Katsina friends. As a Chief Ranger, we are working collaboratively with the federal agencies, F.B.I., U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Bureau of Land Management, and other departments of the federal government, in trying to get these items back to the Hopi people. We are enforcing the federal laws of illegal taking of these artifacts and sales of the artifacts as well. I am a Hopi Tribal member, and this does really hit home of taking of our Katsina friends. And I've worked this area back when I worked for the tribe back in '94, and to this date it's still happening. This has to stop. We will continue to work with the federal agencies, communicating with them and stop the sales, and also on overseas as well, and talking with them, how can we put this to an end? And also to the communities in the world out there, we need to stop this. This is our Katsina friends, this is our culture. Like the gentleman mentioned up here, we all have our own beliefs and our own faiths. With that, I want to call out and reach out to everybody. Please help the Hopi Tribe. Get the word out there. We are going to enforce, we will enforce the federal laws, tribal and state laws. We have to bring the people to justice on this issue, on the illegal sales and transport of these Katsina friends. Again, I want to thank you, everybody, for being here and support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Our final speaker is Dr. Robert Brunig, President, Museum of Northern Arizona, and soon to be President Emeritus, who will discuss what is at stake with these proceedings. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Robert Brunig.
Well, Chairman Honan, Representative Gosar, John, Ron, Lee, and Pierre, I want to thank you all for your previous remarks. I think you've very eloquently said almost all of it, but I would just like to add a couple of points. There's a Hopi word called kiapsi. It means mutual respect. And that's what we're missing here right now. These French auctions have become depressingly common. You've heard the numbers. 2 years ago, when the first major auction came up, many of us wrote letters of protest. We wrote very respectful letters asking the auction house to bring a sense of decency and common humanity to the issue and to return the friends to the Hopi. They ignored us. And now these auctions continue. And I have to say, this continuance is not now, it's clear, it's not just out of ignorance. They have been informed. But it's willful, callous disregard for the humanity and the feelings of the Hopi people. And it's just kind of, frankly, unfair.